So San Francisco has a decision to make, and are they riding with Jimmy Garoppolo or someone else? Well, their recent movement up in the draft shows the latter possibly. If Jimmy G is not the answer, where does maybe a Mac Jones fit in? Does he come into play? He's been connected to the Niners. Justin Fields holding his second pro day today. Niners expected to be in attendance to see him throw. Or could there be maybe a Trey Lance jumping on the scene, heading out west? As I mentioned, there's options. If you're looking for a quarterback of the future, they have it at number 3. And speaking about QBs of the future and drafting those QBs, the Niners have had their ups and downs over time. C.J. Beathard in the 3rd round back in 2017, 2-10 as a starter. Colin Kaepernick probably had the best success out of all these guys. Won the 2013 NFC Championship. Alex Smith, you've seen what he's done and still playing up to this. The #1 overall pick back in 2005, and Giovanni Amazi, the 3rd round pick in 2000. Never played a regular season snap, but definitely drafted over Tom Brady. That one still hurts a lot of teams in the NFL. All right, let's keep this deep dive going with Ryan Woolson, and we're at number 3 now, Ryan. Assuming that Trevor Lawrence goes number 1 to the Jags, I mean, that's safe to say. Zach Wilson going number 2 to the Jets. The Niners have those options, Jones, Fields, or Lance. Who's heading out west, in your opinion, at this point?
Well, I've been talking about Mac Jones since late last year during the college football season when I was hearing that he might be a top 10 pick. And here we are. A few weeks ago, the 49ers traded up from 12 to 3. You're not trading up from 12 to 3 to get Kyle Pitts or Jamar Chase, who are fantastic players. You're getting a transcendent quarterback, a future franchise quarterback, someone to replace Jimmy Garoppolo. So who's it going to be? It feels like Mac Jones to me. I don't have any inside intel as to whether it's going to be him or not. I don't think anyone does outside of Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch at this point. But he checks all the boxes when you look at Kyle Shanahan quarterbacks who've had a ton of success. Matt Ryan, really good quarterback under Kyle Shanahan. Kirk Cousins, Jimmy Garoppolo had that success when he's healthy. Even Brian Hoyer had success in Cleveland when he was healthy and on the field in that offense. You could also point to RG3 back in 2012 at Washington, while Kyle Shanahan was the OC and his dad Mike was the head coach. But they had to tailor that offense around what RG3 did at Baylor, and that was just 1 year's success because RG3 got hurt. But the bottom line for me is that Mac Jones, while he's not going to go out there and win a foot race against Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields, is that he is so good before the snap. He is so good after the snap. The ball comes out quickly. These all feel like things that Kyle Shanahan covets in an offense. And you don't have to be able to run a 4-3 to run Kyle Shanahan's offense. You run the wide zone, you run the play action, you throw off the play action. And that's something that we saw Mac Jones do extremely well at Alabama. Look, that doesn't mean Justin Fields can't be an option here. The pro day is today, as you mentioned. Doesn't mean Trey Lance can't be an option here. But this just feels like the right fit, given the way Mac Jones played last year for Alabama and given what Kyle Shanahan is looking for in a quarterback.
So, of course, Mac Jones trending up, similar to what Zach Wilson has done since the season has ended. But everybody doesn't seem to be on the Jones train there. I want to share a little quote from the San Francisco Chronicle on Jones possibly heading that way. This one, of course, coming from sfgate.com, their digital site, giving up 3 first-round picks for a player who's widely seen as the 5th best quarterback in the draft is a fireable offense. And regardless of how the respective NFL careers of Jones, Fields, and Lance turn out. Ryan, when you hear that, others, of course, not agreeing that Mac Jones is one of those top 5 QBs, your reaction to that is what?
Well, first of all, not until a few years ago, irregardless wasn't a word. Apparently it's a word down the dictionary, so you get away with that one, using irregardless improperly. Number 2, who says he's the 5th best option? According to what, Twitter? If you're on Twitter all day, yes, he's the 5th best option. But I say this all the time, Brandon. NFL teams feel differently about these players, not just quarterbacks, but a lot of these players, than what you see and hear on television and read on social media. And that's just the reality of it. Yes, we in the media have opinions, and we share those opinions. It doesn't mean they're set in stone by NFL teams who have a team of scouts, who have a team of general manager, front office folks who look at these players much more in depth than any of us ever could just because of resources. So, yeah, maybe he's number 5 according to draft media on Twitter. That doesn't mean NFL teams feel that way. And I know there are a handful of teams that consider Mac Jones a top 10 pick. And in fact, if Mac Jones doesn't go 3, I still expect him to go in the top 10. I mean, that gives you some indication of how good he is in the eyes of NFL teams. So I understand the frustration from some 49ers fans. And look, this is a fair point in that quote you just read, Brandon. Giving up all that draft capital to move up for anybody, whether it's Mac Jones or Justin Fields or Trey Lance or Zach Wilson, is a ton of pressure to put on a young man coming into a situation where he's expected to win right away. That part I agree with. The rest, I can take it or leave it based on the fact that we don't know what NFL teams really think about all these players.
Yeah, you're making that type of leap. You're thinking of a franchise cornerstone player there in San Francisco for many years to come. Outside of whatever quarterback it is at number 3, the Niners do have other options. When you look at their draft options and holes they need to fill, what are you looking at so far in your mocks?
Yeah, so Mac Jones is going first overall for me in the mock draft, and, you know, hate it or love it. Most people hate it. That's fine. Back in round 2, Kelvin Joseph, the cornerback out of Kentucky, an LSU transfer, who had a really good season on a defense that also included Jamin Davis, the linebacker, who could also end up going in round 1. But they need help at cornerback. Richard Sherman is still unsigned, and it's not clear that he's going to come back to San Francisco. In round 3, they continue to bolster that secondary with safety Hamza Nasruddin out of Florida State. Had an ACL injury that cut short his 2019 season, but he is a really good player and has an opportunity to play right away in that defense as a strong safety. All
right, Ron, we'll look back at your top 150. Outside of this top-tier group of quarterbacks, there's some other ones out there that could possibly be starters in the future that you're looking at.
Yeah, my quarterbacks 6 and 7 are Kellen Mond out of Texas A&M and Davis Mills out of Stanford. And both of those guys have a chance to be second-round picks. They have third-round grades, early third-round grades on me. But, again, we see this all the time in the first round. We see these quarterbacks pushed up. Expect Kellen Mond to get pushed up. Expect Davis Mills to get pushed up. Here's the difference. Davis Mills has played exactly 11 football games as a starter at Stanford. So he doesn't have a ton of experience. And when you watch him play, he has a strong arm. He moves well in the pocket. He can actually run a little bit if you want him to. He throws the ball with zip. But he gets locked in on his first read, and sometimes he doesn't come off that read, and he forces the ball into situations where he doesn't necessarily need to do that. That's something he's going to have to improve upon, and that's just a matter of growing into the role. That's why you take him after day 1. Kellen Mond has played 44 games as a starter, so he has much more experience. Fantastic 2020 season after a relatively mediocre 2019 campaign. I think he was telling you as much. A really fun guy to watch. I think he has a chance to be a starter in this league at some point. Both guys, for me, I expect to go in round 2, Brandon.
All right, both guys trending in the right direction the closer we get to draft day. Ryan Wilson tapping in this morning. Appreciate your time as always, my friend. Don't forget, you can catch him on the Pick 6 podcast along with Will Brinson and John Breach, always breaking it down. We're just a few weeks away from the big day going down in Cleveland. Download and follow the guys for the good conversation the closer we get.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.